Good morning, all. Let us stand up for the prayers, please.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। विघ्नेशानमुनि गुरुसस्मरुनि लक्ष्मीस आवाहिले आम्ही गुंतवणूकशास्त्र शिकण्या हे सत्र आरंभिले केव्हा स्थावर आणि जंगम कधी कोठे किती गुंतवू चर्चा मंथन तज्ञ बोध मिळता हे प्रश्नही सोडवू ठेवी भाग सुवर्ण पोस्ट अथवा रोखे तसे फंडते वृद्धी भांडवली मिळो कर नको पर्याय हो कोणते कोठे उत्तम रोखता सुगमता लाभांश वा व्याजही कोठे गुंतविणे सुरक्षित असे नोंदीस कैसी वही सन्मार्गे धनसंपदा मिळविणे अत्यंत आवश्यक पैसा ध्येय नसे म्हणून जपणे जाणीव सामाजिक ज्ञानाचा उपयोग गुंतवणुकी साठी सदा होऊ दे हे सारे समजावया सुमती दे आम्हास तू शारदे.
Good morning once again. This is this time of the year when we have one session on filing of returns to help our participants so that they are able to resolve their queries and they are able to file a tax return in a very efficient way. So we have Mr. Akshay Tambe, who's been a regular visitor to PV Bhagwat Investment Guidance Cell year after year, and he's been holding sessions along with Mr. Ashok Dere, who's unable to come today for some personal reasons, and he's got some other obligations to attend to. And so we have Akshay Tambe here, and we'll welcome him. I would not take much of your time. Akshay is known to you. I have already shared with you the profile. He is a chartered accountant with more than 12 years of experience practicing in direct and indirect taxes. So I'll welcome Mr. Akshay Tambe. Akshay Tambe, to you. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the secretaries and other members of the PV Bhagwat Investment Guidance Cell, as well as the Lokmanya Seva Sangha, for giving me this opportunity once again this year, for helping you all, or rather sharing my views on filing the income tax returns for the assessment year 24-25. Also, not to forget my mentor, my senior, Ashok Dere sir. He is unable to come due to some personal commitments, but we'll just be taking forward with the slides the nuances of the income tax return filings, which will maybe in some or the other way guide you or help you to file your tax returns this year. Due date falling on 31st of July, so we have merely 15-16 days, and I believe the site is now started giving some issues, so it is better that you file it today itself rather than waiting for the last day. Apart from that, there will be many challenges that we will be facing in terms of matching the income which is reflected in 26 AS, in AIS and TIS. So that is a jumble that you will need to resolve, and then only it is better to file the income tax return. So going for the topic for the day.
Before Akshay gets onto it, one request to all the participants that keep your mobile phones on low ringtones. Hold back all your questions because he has covered most of it, the changes which are impacting your filing of returns. So most of this will get answered in the process. So let him complete his submissions, and then we'll see how to go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So going for the topic filing of tax returns, let us first see who is required to file the income tax returns mandatorily. So this is the screen. There is a seventh proviso to section 139(1). Now 139(1) is the section whereby which we, all of us individuals, file the income tax returns. Here they have mentioned some people who feel that अरे मला तर income tax return file करायची गरज नहीं है. So that is not the case actually. Even if you are not having income that is required to be filed as under the income tax, in case you are following or certain conditions of 139(1) proviso 7 have been satisfied, you will have to file the tax returns. So the first point that is mentioned over here is, if the person has deposited any amount exceeding 1 crore rupees in one or more current accounts maintained with a banking company or a cooperative bank. So there was this myth or maybe some understanding with people कि cooperative bank it ठेवलं तर काय report होत नाही. So that is not the case now on. So everything, whether it is be a normal banking company or a cooperative bank, everything consolidated is to be taken care of while filing the tax returns. So in case you have deposited a single amount or aggregate of rupees 1 crore or more in one or many current accounts held by you during the financial year. So what we are talking about here is only pertaining to one financial year beginning from 1st of April 23 to 31st of March 24. The second condition that is mentioned over here is, if the person has incurred an amount or an aggregate of amounts exceeding 2 lakh rupees for himself or any other person for traveling to a foreign company. So many of people in Parla must be traveling to foreign countries. 2 lakh rupees or more if you have incurred on a foreign travel, it gets reported on in the form 26AS. So most of the times what we do is we just go through form 26AS, the first part, and then there are some blank lines and we leave it. Go down, there is a TCS element. Even if there is no TCS, there is an amount that you have spent on foreign travel, be it Kesari Tours or any other banking company who has converted the money for you for foreign travel, it gets reflected. So everything that is reflected on the 26AS, AIS or TAS, mind you, the data is already with the government. So what you need to do is reconcile your data with the government data, match it. In case you feel there is a discrepancy, there are two options available. Either you accept the data provided by the government or you accept the data that is available with you. In case you are not accepting the data that is provided by the government or the other parties who have reported that data to the government, you have options to accept, reject, correct or modify the data. I will be taking that screen as well while I will be explaining the AIS part. So it is always better to have your data ready and then compare it with the AIS. Just don't think कि 26AS डाउनलोड करेंगे, AIS डाउनलोड करेंगे, मॅच कर लेंगे, फाईल कर देंगे, असं नाही आहे. आपल्याला आपला डेटा रेडी पाहिजे, मग त्या AISच्या फक्त सपोर्टने आपल्याला रिटर्न फाईल करायचं आहे. AIS इज नॉट द बेस, इट इज जस्ट अ सपोर्टिंग document which will help you to match or complete your data. The third point, has incurred an expenditure of an amount or an aggregate of amounts exceeding 1 lakh rupees towards consumption of electricity. Now this is also an important part wherein if you have made a payment of electricity of rupees 1 lakh or more, you are mandatorily required to file the income tax return. Now this is mainly in cases of factories. If you have a factory where you are paying electricity bills of 10,000 or more, it goes to 1,20,000 on an annual basis, you are mandatorily required to file the tax returns. The fourth point is fulfill such other conditions as may be prescribed. So the other conditions that are mentioned are these. They are mentioned under Rule 12AB of the income tax rules. The conditions for furnishing of income tax return in respect of persons referred to in clause B of 139(1) in terms of clause 4 of 7th proviso shall be the following. First, if the total sales, turnover or gross receipts as the case may be in the business exceed 60 lakh rupees. So in case you are running a business and you have sales or turnover or gross receipts which exceed 60 lakh rupees during the previous year, that is financial year 23-24, you are compulsorily required to file the income tax return. Now if you already are running a business and having a turnover of more than 60 lakh rupees, I presume that you are registered under GST, because the limit for business, that is trading, is 40 lakhs under GST. So the data which you are filing under the GST returns is already with the government. So they know that the total turnover has exceeded 60 lakh rupees. If it is exceeding 60 lakh rupees, you have to file the returns. Second, if the gross receipts in profession exceed 10 lakh rupees. Now, if you are providing any service to some or the other company or some other institution and you are receiving gross receipts in excess of rupees 10 lakhs, you are compulsorily required to file the income tax returns. The third point is, if the aggregate tax deducted at source and tax collected at source during the year exceeds 25,000 rupees. So you feel that the total TDS deducted in your case is 25,000 or more, you are compulsorily required to file the income tax returns. The limit for this, the limit of this 25,000 has been exceeded to 50,000 in case of senior citizens. And the last point, the deposit in one or more savings account of a person in aggregate of rupees 50 lakhs or more. So if you have deposited 50 lakhs or more during the financial year in your bank account, savings bank account precisely, then you are compulsorily required to file the tax returns. So after these two slides, you have decided whether you are compulsorily required to file the tax returns or not. Once you have decided, you need to select the form. The forms that are available for individuals are 1, 2, 3 and 4. Before that, the conditions that I mentioned over here, 7th proviso, when you are filing the income tax return online, these are the questions that they ask before you go to file your tax returns. So first is, are you filing the tax return due to any of the following reasons? The first being, taxable income is more than the basic exemption limit. The basic exemption limit for individuals is 2,50,000 rupees. Second point is, filing the tax returns, filing return of income due to fulfilling of one or more of the below conditions as per 7th proviso. So here they have precisely asked you, why are you filing the tax returns? Is your taxable income more than the basic exemption limit? Excuse me. Second point, have you deposited an amount exceeding 1 crore in the current account? Third, have you incurred an expenditure of 2 lakhs or more on foreign travels? Next, have incurred an expenditure exceeding 1 lakh rupees on electricity or any other conditions as may be prescribed. And the last point is others. So if you have an income of 2,50,000 or more, I would advise you to select the first option in this case, that your taxable income is more than the basic exemption limit. We all may feel ki if we are opting for the old regime, 5 lakh rupees is the limit, 5 lakh the tax lagat nahi, but that is not the case. The basic exemption limit is 2,50,000. If your income is exceeding 2,50,000 but up to 5 lakh rupees, you get a rebate under section 87A. So just because tax is not leviable on your income doesn't mean that your income is below the basic tax exemption limit. So this is the difference that you need to take care of and then go forward. Selection of form. ITR 1, as you all know, this return is applicable to resident individual having income from one or many sources mentioned below up to 50 lakh rupees. Salary, pension, one house property, other sources, that is interest, family pension, dividend, etc. and agricultural income only up to 5,000 rupees. Who cannot file income tax return? 1, ITR 1. There is a list that is mentioned. I believe this PPT will be shared with the people, so you can get a gist of it. If you are a director in a company, you cannot file ITR 1. If you have held any unlisted equity shares at any time during the previous year, unlisted precisely. If you have any asset including a financial interest in any entity located outside India, if you have a signing authority in any account located outside India, you have income from any source outside India, you are a person whose tax has been deducted under section 194N. 194N is the TDS that is applicable on cash withdrawals. So if you are not aware, there is also a TDS that is applicable if you withdraw cash of a certain amount. Next, you are a person in whose case payment or deduction of tax has been referred on ESOP. If you have any brought forward loss or any loss is to be carried forward to any other head of income, and you have an income exceeding 50 lakh rupees. So if you are falling under any of these conditions, you cannot file ITR 1. Then what is the form applicable to you? It is ITR 2. Is it? Let us check. This return is applicable for individual or HUF not having income under the head profits and gains from business or profession, and who is not eligible for filing ITR 1. So if you are eligible for filing ITR 1, don't go for ITR 2. Go for ITR 1. If you are fulfilling the conditions which are mentioned over here, for people who cannot file ITR 1, you can go for ITR 2. Next is ITR 3. This return is applicable to individuals and HUF who have the income under PGBP, that is profits and gains from business or profession, and who are not eligible for filing ITR 1, 2 and 4. So let us come to ITR 4 then. In that case, ITR 4 Sugam is applicable for individual HUF and firms but not LLPs. This return is applicable to firms, individuals and HUFs who is a resident other than not ordinary resident, or a firm which is a resident having total income up to 50 lakhs. So you can cut it short this way. If you have income up to 50 lakhs and you are an individual, you can go for ITR 1 or ITR 4 depending upon the nature of income. The incomes that are considered under ITR 4 are business and profession but showing income under the presumptive basis, that is 44 AD or ADA or AE, and having income from any of the below sources, that is salary, one house property, other sources and agricultural income. So basically ITR 1 and ITR 4 are almost the same, except the fact that you are showing income from business profession in ITR 4 but you are not showing it in ITR 1. Now there is a method in which you can show the business income in ITR 4. ITR 4 is to be selected only if you are showing income from business profession under the presumptive basis, that is 44 AD, ADA or AE. So for businesses, the section is 44 AD, you can show 8% or 6% depending upon the conditions. For section 44 ADA, the income is 50% of the turnover. Of course, there are conditions to it, but then there is an option available for you. Similarly, similar to ITR 1, there are conditions for ITR 4. People who cannot file ITR 4. The conditions mentioned for 1 and 4 are almost the same. You can go through it. Next, in case you need any assistance from the income tax department. So many of you may be asking ki आपल्याला department कडून काही information मिळू शकते का? So once you go on the website, the second option just beside home is individual or HUF. You can see over here. You can select the nature of income or the category in which you fit in. So are you a salaried employee? Are you having business or income from business profession? Are you a senior or super senior citizen? Are you a non-resident, or are you an HUF? Once you click on these options, for the first thing I have opened it, for salaried employees there are these options available. Guidance to file tax return, returns or forms that are applicable to me, tax slabs. Many of you must be having those questions. What is the new tax regime? What is the old tax regime? What are the tax slabs? What are the deductions which I can get? How can I update my profile details? What is assisted filing? And there are certain utilities that you can download. So the department is now on its toes to provide assistance to you, provided the site runs well. Nowadays there are issues with the site running, so me and my team have found a solution. If it is not running on Google Chrome, try for Mozilla Firefox. It is a more stable and a better website rather than Chrome. I would not say it is the best, but as compared to Chrome, you can go for Mozilla Firefox. You will get stable screens, stable database that way. The default tax regime for financial year 23-24 is the new tax regime. So by default, all of you are under the new tax regime. So in case you want to opt for old tax regime, you have to inform to the government that I do not want to go for the old one. So by default, you are into the new tax regime. Now, what are the ways in which you can convey to the government that you want to opt for the old tax regime? In ITR 1 and ITR 2, there are options given in the form itself. So once you go for ITR 1 or 2, under the general information tab that is given in, there is an option whether you want to go for old tax regime or the new tax regime. Now the question mentioned over there is, do you want to opt out of new tax regime? That is the question. So it is a very tricky one. You need to select yes or no with detailed understanding of the question per se. In the latest utility which has been released just 2 days back on the yesterday, sorry, 13th of July. This is the third version of the utility. The first version was released way earlier. Second version was released on 5th of July, and now just within 10 days they have released the third version of the utility. In the utility, what I could see was when you are selecting the option of new or old, after a detailed narration they have mentioned in the bracket, you are selecting old tax regime or you are selecting new tax regime. So that is a relief for us. Rather than understanding, you can go for the precise option. You have selected old or new tax regime in ITR 2 under the general information tab. For those who are not filing ITR 1 and 2, what is the option available? So the option available is Form 10 IEA. So what you have to do is, in case you are filing ITR 3 or ITR 4 and you want to opt for the old tax regime, you just cannot select it from the form itself. You have to file another form, Form 10 IEA, and then you can opt for the old tax regime. So how you will say ki, we will just select no, that we have filled that form and we will go for the old tax regime. No. Once you fill Form 10 IEA, similar to the ITR, you get an acknowledgement number. So once you get that acknowledgement number, then and then only you can proceed with filing of ITR 3 or ITR 4. Why? Because once you select, I want to opt for old tax regime under the ITR 3 or 4, there is a pop-up that opens up which says what is the acknowledgement number, what is the date of filing Form 10 IEA. So make sure that you mention the correct details in that, otherwise you will be selected for the default tax regime. Form 10 IEA is not to be filed for opting into the new tax regime, as it is the default tax regime. So make sure that you are filing 10 IEA only and only in case you are filing ITR 3 or ITR 4 and you want to opt for old tax regime. Now what is this old and new? Old and new, continuously they are changing. Last year the old tax regime was the default tax regime. This year new tax regime is the default tax regime. What are the changes that are coming in? So a brief pointers that I could collate were these. Under the old tax regime, all the allowable deductions and exemptions can be claimed and availed by you. But under the new tax regime, the deductions that are available are majorly 80 CCD2 for individuals. This 80 CCD2 is for people having contribution from the employer to the provident fund. Under the old tax regime, the rates of tax are higher, of course, because you are getting certain deductions and exemptions. As compared to that, the rates of tax are lower under the new tax regime because you are offering a higher amount of income to tax. Interest on SOP, I believe most of the people may be having this query. If I have a SOP and I am opting for new tax regime and I have been paying EMIs which includes interest on that SOP. So that interest which you pay to the bank on the loan taken to purchase or construct a SOP is allowed under old tax regime, but it is not allowed under the new tax regime. So that 2 lakh ka basic deduction that you could easily get under the old one is now not available under the new tax regime. The rebate under section 87A, the maximum rebate that you could get under the old tax regime was rupees 12,500. That was if the income was less than 5 lakh rupees. The same rebate has been increased to rupees 25,000, but there is a condition again, the income should be less than 7 lakh rupees. The slab rates. The old tax regime slab rates were up to 2.5 lakhs nil, 2 to 5% 5 to 10 20%, and more than 10 lakhs 30% was the tax rates. The rates have been revised and the slabs have been revised under the new tax regime. Up to 3 lakh rupees there is a nil tax rate, 3 to 6 it is 5, 6 to 9 it is 10, 9 to 12 it is 15, 12 to 15 it is 20%, and more than 15 lakhs the income is taxed at 30% tax rate. A better version of this is also been extracted from Clear Tax. I just took this slide for the senior citizens and super senior citizens. So here the only difference that you can see is up to 3 lakh rupees for senior citizens, that is greater than or equal to 60 but less than 80 is nil. The same is exceeded up to 5 lakh rupees for resident senior super citizens, that is above 80 years of age. The new tax regime remains the same for all the age brackets. Now you will say, if I have derived my income, how do I determine which regime is better for me and which is not, wherein I can benefit from the tax staying within the limits of the and the four corners of the law and still get a benefit on tax. Once you log into your income tax portal, on the left hand side you get this welcome back so and you get your details. Just below that, if you could see on the left hand bottom, it is written income and tax estimator. Now this is a very good initiative that has been taken up by the income tax department. There is this income and tax estimator that they have given in. In one of my clients' case, there were some details that were mentioned in AIS, TIS and 26AS. What this income tax estimator did was, it pulled up the data right from 26AS, AIS and TIS. It asked me whether do I want to edit this data, and then I could continue further. So what are the options available in this particular tab? Once you click on this income and tax estimator, the screen that is given on the right, income and tax basic information, income detail deduction, this screen pops up. What you have to do is, you have to click on each tab, the basic information. You just check whether the details are correct. What is mentioned over here is generally whether you are an individual, what is your age bracket, what is your assessment year that you are selecting. If you have already logged into your profile, the income tax portal, the first tab gets automatically filled. Now why is this? Is because you have my profile option in your income tax portal and the details are already there with the government. So the first part, that is the basic information, is already filled in. What you have to do is verify or edit the second option. Second option is for the income details. Once you open the income details tab, it gives you the heads of income. Income from salary, income from business and profession, income from capital gains, income from house property and other sources. What you have to do is, you have to keep your data ready and check whether the income from salary that is available with you is actually mentioned in that tab. If it is not, edit it. The standard deduction of 50,000 is available or not, just check that. Professional tax, in case your employer has deducted, check that figure, 2,000, 2,500 depending upon the number of months that you have worked in. Second is the income from house property. Now you will feel ki income from house property, in my client's case, it popped it directly. So I was also under the impression, how did this computer or the department came to know that I have received rent, because there was no TDS deducted as such. What is now happening is, when the other person to whom you have given your property on rent files his income tax returns and claims a house rent allowance under section 1013A, he mentions that I have given so and so amount of rent to this particular person. So tomorrow say I have given one of my house property on rent and the other person is giving me in cash. I will say, "Arey, kai dakhwachi garaj nahi." That is not the case. If he is replying to the government stating that I have been claiming exemption under section 1013A for house rent allowance and I am paying so much amount of rent to XYZ person, having this particular PAN. So what we do is, if we give our property on rent, we generally get it registered. While registering basic details, Aadhaar card, PAN card is already available with the tenant. So the tenant mentions it while claiming his income tax returns, and then it pops up into your income and tax estimator. So the government rightfully knows that you are receiving certain amount of rent. That income again gets popped up in the income detail. The third point is capital gains. Now luckily, there were some sale of mutual funds and equities, but the government or the database that is available with them is not in a right condition to calculate the capital gains as of now. Why? I'll tell you. Once you download the AIS, there are sale entries that come in. The amount of sale is there. The amount of purchase, that is mentioned as cost of acquisition, is also there. But there are certain items which are off market transactions. So if you are getting an IPO, you are not purchasing it from the securities directly, you are getting it from the IPO. So the department or the person who is giving the data to the department, it doesn't have the cost of acquisition with him. So I believe that could be the only reason why they are not coming up with the capital gains amount directly, that is the long term, short term, because your broker can directly give it to you. If your broker has it, he is rightfully giving it to the government. So the government should also have the same figures. But there are certain nuances and nitty-gritties which need to be taken care of. That is why maybe capital gains is not yet taken into consideration while computing the income. The third point is income from business and profession. Again, if you are having business and profession, you have a GST number, you have mentioned it in the GST returns, the turnover can be captured. But how does the government estimate the profit that you have earned? So business income is not coming in over here. However, the fifth source of income, that is the other sources, interest on savings bank account, interest on deposits, interest on others, dividends, everything gets captured over here. Now if you go tomorrow and check this tab, and if it is not available, sorry sir, I can't help, but there is some transition issue, that is why. But the information is already there. So when you compare or sit for this income and tax estimator, make sure that you keep your AIS, TIS ready, 26AS ready, and mention the correct details in this tabs. The third point over here is deduction details. Now deduction details are deductions under section 80C, that is 1,50,000 you may get. 80CCD NPS you will get 50,000. 80D, that is mediclaim, 25, 50 or 75 depending upon the case. Once you fill in all these, 80TTA once again, the saving bank, or 80TTB rather for senior citizens up to 50,000, you fill in all these details. The fourth tab you fill the tax detail, that is 26AS ka TDS, advance tax and sorry, not the self-assessment tax, because I believe most of us must have paid that. And you click on calculate tax or calculate, there is a tab which is there. What the system will do is, it will compare the old tax regime income as per old tax regime, the deductions as per old tax regime, and it will also compare the income as per new tax regime and the deductions that can be availed under new tax regime. It will come to a net taxable income under both the regimes and give you the tax calculated thereon after reducing the TDS and the advance tax or self-assessment tax in case you have paid that. So the department is readily giving you the option to check which regime is useful to you, under which regime you can rightfully save your tax and get the benefits. A very important point, this is the first time ever the government has come up with the income tax calculator right inside your portal, just below the profile tab. Documents to be kept handy for filing of income tax returns. The basic documents that can be extracted from the portal are 26AS, AIS and TIS. The other documents that you can get are form number 16, interest certificates from your banks, bank summaries that you have prepared, or the passbooks that you prepare a rough bank summary from your end, documents for claiming exemptions or deductions under section 80C, 80D, other deductions as well from chapter 6A, and the capital gain summary from your broker. So before you start filing your income tax returns, make sure that all these documents are ready with you. Then only go for the income and tax estimator, or then only go for filing of income tax returns. Now how do you get the documents from the portal? As I mentioned over here, the documents from portal are 26AS, AIS and TIS. Once you log into your screen, on the left hand side there is a dashboard element. Just besides that is e-file tab. You click on income tax returns. Once you click on income tax return, there is a right arrow. You get these options. What are the options available? Filing of income tax returns, view the filed returns, e-verify your return, view form 26AS, download pre-filled data and view AIS. So AIS, as there is a marking done on the top as well, AIS can also be availed from the from the tab itself, or you can get the AIS just below form 26AS. That is the last option, view annual information statement. Now what does the form 26AS contain? Form 26AS contains the details of all the TDSs that have been deducted, which also include the TDS on sale of property and TDS on rental income. So in case your tenant is paying you rent in excess of 50,000, he is also liable to deduct TDS and report it to form 26AS, through form 26AS. Now this rental income, a very peculiar case had come to our office this year, that he had paid rent during the year, but while deducting TDS in the month of March, he had mentioned only the rent for the month of March and the TDS also for the month of March. Now this created a problem because our client had accepted the amount for all the months without TDS. So when the other person, the tenant, filed the TDS return, he mentioned the TDS only for the month of March. So there was a loss on his part, my client's part, that he couldn't claim the TDS because it was not reflecting in form 26AS. Now the other person has an option to revise that TDS return, the 24QC precisely. The fact that came to our knowledge under this particular case was, in case the other person revises his TDS returns for rental income, you have to log into your traces portal. Now, how we have your income tax portal, a similar portal is available for traces. You have to create a login on your traces portal, and there you have to accept whether the correction made by the tenant is acceptable to you or not. So there is a two-way confirmation that the government has brought in case of rental incomes precisely, because that was a live case that we handled this year. This helped us to claim the TDS in the year in which it was deducted. So a very important point, 26 years, all of us know, but this was an addition. The rental income editing or the amendment to TDS returns has to be accepted by the owner of the property who is receiving the rent. Otherwise, he is not in a position to accept or claim that TDS, even though the tenant has revised the return. A very important point I felt. Second, it also contains the details of TCS. So as I mentioned earlier, just below the TDS slabs that form the top part of the form 26A comes the TCS element. So one of our client had made some expenditure on tours. The TCS that was collected on that tour was mentioned in the form 26A. Also TCS comes in cases where there are foreign remittances. So currently the limit, so far as my knowledge is concerned, is 7 lakh rupees. Up to 7 lakh rupees there is no TCS on foreign remittances. However, if it goes beyond 7 lakhs, there is a TCS that the government or the banking company collects from you, and that has to be disclosed in the form 26A. That is the way in which the amount that has been paid by you to the banking company can be claimed by you while filing the tax returns. So it is not a loss basically. Similar cases also arise when you purchase a car beyond a certain amount, say 10 lakh rupees I believe. If you purchase a car, a TCS is collected by you, and that can be claimed as a refund or as a tax paid by you while filing the tax returns. The most important part is the interest on FDs, I believe. Most of us have fixed deposit created with various banks. The banks book the interest during the current year for the tenure from the date of creation of FDs till the 31st of March. But because the amount is not yet received by us in our bank accounts, we feel it is not our income. That is not the case. The income on interest is to be taken care of on accrual basis. So whatever interest you have earned from the date of creation of FD till the end of the year is to be booked by you in the financial year itself. Now that amount is difficult for us to ascertain because we are unable to calculate with that precision, but we can readily go to form 26A and get that amount of interest that has been paid or credited to our account by the banks or financial institutions. The second, the most important part I believe is form AIS and TIS. As I mentioned over here, you can get AIS details from the last tab or the fifth tab from left. What do we get from AIS TIS? Now, if you click on this AIS that is mentioned over here, a screen gets pop up which says, do you want to proceed to a different site? You have to click on proceed. Once you click on proceed, the small screen that I have mentioned over here on the right, a new tab has been enabled, download AIS and TIS both for financial year 23-24. Make sure that you download the correct AIS TIS. Now correct as in I mean for the financial year 23-24, because AIS TIS was brought into the existence in the past 3 years. You have got a drop down option as well. So by default it is 23-24. But by mistake, if you click and scroll down, it comes to 23, 22, 23, 21, 22. Make sure that the year selected is correct. Once you click on download AIS TIS, a small screen pops up in front of you which says download AIS, second is download AIS JSON, and third is download TIS. You can download the data into a PDF format. The PDF format has to be opened with a password. The password is your date of birth, prefixed with your PAN in small letters. So PAN in small plus your date of birth in DDMMYYYY format opens up the PDF file for your AIS and TIS. Now, what information is provided to you through AIS TIS? Dividend, interest on savings account, interest on deposits, interest on others, sale of securities and mutual funds, purchase of time deposits, that is fixed deposits, GST turnover of sale as well as purchases, outward foreign remittances, and the most important part is the advance tax and the self-assessment tax. Earlier, advance tax and self-assessment tax was disclosed in the form 26AS. Now they have replaced it and they have mentioned it in form AIS. Only in AIS to be precise, not in TIS. Make sure that you get the correct details. Now, furthermore, if you have paid self-assessment tax for any of the previous year, it gets reflected in this AIS, and the advance tax for financial year 23-24 gets reflected in AIS. Now, what I feel is, whatever tax payments you make during the financial year are mentioned over here. So, in case you have paid self-assessment tax before filing of income tax return, say last week, it will not get reflected in AIS of current year. It will get reflected in the AIS of next year. So you will feel, "Arey, me tax the bharla, but it is not reflected in 26AS. It is not reflecting in TIS. Neither it is getting reflected in AIS. How do I file the tax returns?" For that, there is another tab called e-pay tax. If I go to the earlier screen, the third option after income tax return is e-pay tax. Under the e-pay tax option, there are three things available to you: generated e-challans, challan history, and downloads. So what you can do is, if you have paid self-assessment tax say last week, it is not reflecting in your AIS or TIS or 26AS, you can go to the e-file tab, under that select e-pay tax, and you can download the challan actually and keep it on record. Now this downloading is very much essential because it contains your BSR code number, it contains the date of payment of tax and the amount of tax. These three things are very much essential for you to claim the credit of the tax against the tax demand that has been raised by the department. So going further in future years, in case there is a demand for due to mismatch of challans, make sure that the data that is mentioned on the challan is rightly entered by you on in the income tax return that you are filing. Interest on savings account. So I believe all of us must be aware how many savings account are available with us. But we have faced clients who say, "माझा तो एकच bank account, बाकी काय नाही." And we give them a list of bank accounts that is reflected in AIS. सर अजून इकडे कॅनरा बँकेत पण एक ओपन आहे. अरे हां, ते मी तिकडे राहत होतो तेव्हा एक ओपन केलेलं. बट त्याच्यात डिपॉझिट्स आहेत सर, अँड यू हॅव गॉट इंटरेस्ट एज वेल. Then you get interest from deposits. You can check the banks who have given the deposits to you. Also, furthermore, you can get the deposit numbers as well. Similar to interest on savings account, the banks that are giving you savings in bank interest, deposits, in the case of deposits, you get the banks who are giving you FD interest with the number of fixed deposits. So there are 5 fixed deposits kept by you in State Bank of India. All the 5 fixed deposit with their specific unique numbers are reflected in form AIS. So you can match it via the bank wise as well as FD number wise. Third point is interest from others. Now 193 is also a section wherein people deduct TDS on interest paid to you. This is interest on interest other than fixed deposits. The fourth point is sale of securities or mutual funds. Make sure that all the information that is available in AIS for the sales amount. So suppose you have sold shares and mutual funds of say 40 lakh rupees. Match it with your broker's details. There are certain elements where we found that few items were available with the broker but not available in AIS. So the broker turnover is say 45 lakhs. The turnover of sale proceeds from the AIS is 40 lakhs. 8 lakh rupees were available with broker which is not available in AIS. So if you reduce 8 from 45, it comes to 37. Now there are 3 lakh rupees ka turnover which is mentioned in AIS, but it is not actually available with your broker. When we confronted our client ki there is this mismatch, 8 lakh rupees ka hata denge, then there is still a mismatch of 3 lakh rupees which is showing in the AIS. He said, yes, I have a different broker as well. Then he gave that sheet. So make sure that if in case there are multiple brokers, get all the data that you have. We feel sometimes that sagla alelay, but that is not the case. only at the time when we start matching the data, we get to know, this is also an investment made by us. This is also a profit sale that has been made by us during the year. Even in case of switching over, as we were discussing just before the session, some people think just we have switched over from A to B scheme. That also amounts to booking of your profits and hence has to be reported in the income tax returns. The entire data is available right in front of you. What you have to do is just take a little extra effort and match the details. Matching is a very important point that we have come across. Last year we filed some income tax returns, but the interest on savings bank was erroneously put in interest from others. There was an intimation which stated that there is interest on savings bank of say 5,000 rupees as per AS, but you have not mentioned in your ITR. When we saw the computation, we said we have offered it to tax, but while filing the tax return under income from other sources, it was erroneously entered into interest from others. So when you click on interest tab while filing the income tax return, there are options available. Interest from savings bank, interest from deposits, interest from others. Make sure that saving bank interest is put into the saving bank interest tab. Now there is no specific person sitting over there who is assessing your returns. The entire thing is matched through artificial intelligence. So if they say something over here, अरे सेविंग बँकेत एवढा आहे, टर्म डिपॉझिटमध्ये एवढा आहे, अदर्समध्ये काही नाही आहे. But while filing your returns, it is not matching because you put everything under the third tab, but nothing under 1, 2. And here the data is under 1 and 2, but nothing under tab 3. When they match, they say 3 वाला तर तुमचा आम्ही डेटा घेतो, हे 2 आम्ही ॲड करून देणार. So they send you a demand notice. So make sure that every data that is filled in is rightfully filled into the correct tabs with the correct amounts. The purchase of time deposits. A very peculiar case. One of our clients, not so big enough, had shown a purchase of time deposits of 50 lakh rupees. Now the basic question that came to my mind was, if a person is not having income of say more than 5 to 7 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees, how can he create a fixed deposit of say 50 lakhs? That is a disproportionate amount of fixed deposit that has been created. So we inquired in detail. Said, no, I have not made any more fixed deposits. माझ्याकडे जेवढं होतं तेवढंच केलं आहे. On further scrutiny, what we found out was, in TIS it is showing that there is a purchase of fixed deposit of 50 lakhs. But when we went into the details of AIS, again, AIS being the detailed part of the information available with the department, there is a small line that has been inserted, gross amount received from the client by the bank or say any other entity, and gross amount paid to the client. So the net FD that was created was only of 5 lakh rupees, but it was done 10 times. 5 lakhs created, 45 lakhs paid to the client. So gross amount received vis-a-vis gross amount paid to the assessee is to be checked. Just because it is saying कि 50 lakhs term deposit purchase केलं inquiry काढा, make sure that TIS मध्ये 50 असतील, AIS मध्ये gross amount paid to the client किती आहेत or paid to the assessee. So the department or the entities who are reporting the data to the department, income tax department, have mentioned gross amount received as well as gross amount paid. So most of the times there are old FDs which are matured, the people create new FDs as well. So the जुने mature झाले comes under the gross amount paid to the assessee. The assessee matures those, renews those and added one single FD suppose. That is the gross amount received from the assessee. So make sure that these amounts are also tallying with your books. Also happens so that the amounts are not reflecting in your bank because bank account statements, because you go to the bank, you say, अरे हे mature झाली, ठीक आहे renew करा. But for the purpose of reporting, they report it as gross amount received 45 lakhs, gross amount paid 50 lakhs. Make sure that these figures are in sync with your data, your fixed deposits, your investments. And the last one, foreign remittance. In case there is any TCS paid by you, make sure that you claim it. Also TCS applicable on foreign travel and as I said, purchase of motor vehicle. What are the details that you can check on the IT portal? So I believe we have been filing income tax returns on the new portal for the consecutive, this will be the 3rd year, but the profile details that most of us fail to check on the portal are mentioned over here. There are details which cannot be edited and there are certain details which can be edited. Make sure that all the details are correct. If they are not correct, take steps to put the correct details on the portal. What are the details that cannot be edited? First is the name. There are certain people who have X name on their passport, Y name on their PAN card. I am not saying that there are different names, but there are prefix, suffixes, something which is different on the PAN card and on the passport and on other Aadhaar details as well. Spelling mistakes. Make sure that it is correctly mentioned on the profile of the PAN card of the income tax portal. Next is the date of birth. Again, there could be errors. Please make sure it is the right date of birth that has been mentioned. Also match it with your Aadhaar card. The gender, the PAN number. Many of us must be filing the tax returns, may be aware that holding of more than one PAN is not the right way. It is also punishable with a fine of say 10,000, I believe, so far as my limited knowledge is concerned. Also check whether the PAN status is active or not. If your Aadhaar and PAN is not linked, the PAN becomes inactive. You must be feeling that मी तर आधी केलं होतं link झालेलं आहे, but if there is any technical error, the PAN status becomes inactive. Please make sure that the PAN status is active. And the last point, whether your Aadhaar number is linked or not. So when you go on to the My Profile section of your income tax portal, these are the details that are available to you. If the Aadhaar card is linked, the last 4 digits of your Aadhaar number are mentioned with a green tick. If a green tick is available, that means your Aadhaar number is linked to your PAN card. Now there are new or rather few other things which can be edited. One is the citizenship. I believe most of you must not have selected your citizenship. There are Indian and others options available. Make sure that you do it at least this year. What is your residential status? And the third, do you have a valid passport? In case these details are incorrect, make sure that you correct them while filing your tax returns this year. The other details that are also available on the income tax portal are mobile number. It may be possible that you have changed your mobile number or the old number is on but you don't use it frequently. There are 2 options to enter your mobile number and email ID. So one mobile number you can put as the primary and the second one you can put as secondary. In case your mobile number is not valid or is not in a working condition, make sure that you put your spouse's number or your son's number or your father's number, whoever is actively ready to reply or revert or take action on the SMSs that are received. So nowadays the method of communication is very fluid by the government. They have been sending you SMSs, I believe. Have you filed your income tax returns? Make sure that you file it before 31st July, but the site is not working. So the SMSs that come after you file your tax returns, in case there is a notice, come to the primary and secondary mobile number that are mentioned on this profile. You may be saying की माझं सगळं फायलिंग होते पण माझ्या मित्राला येतात SMSs, emails, मला काहीच येत नाही. Have you updated your mobile number on the site? Have you updated your email ID on the site? Is that email ID valid and you have been regularly checking it? That is also a point to be checked. 2 mobile numbers, 2 email IDs. Also, once you change that email ID, what the government has come up with is a OTP system to verify whether there is any error in the mobile number or the email ID that you have mentioned. If there is a spelling mistake in the email ID, you will not be able to change that email because the OTP is not mentioned by you. So what they have done is, if you say abc@gmail.com, they will send an email at ABC with an OTP. And once you mention that OTP, then only that ABC email ID will be accepted. So it is not possible that some other email ID is mentioned and then you can just flow around with that email ID and you will say कि माझ्याकडे email येत नाही. But if you have mentioned the OTP, you have verified that email ID with the OTP verification process, then your email ID will be registered and all the communication will be addressed to you. Third point is the address. In case you have changed your address from A to B, make sure that it is updated on the income tax portal as well. Communication can be addressed to primary and secondary or both. So I would advise keep it both primary and secondary, because in case there is some network issue or some other issue, at least another number gets the SMS or alert from the income tax department. The last 3 points, bank accounts, and intimation order. These are very important. I will just run you through this. Once you complete the My Profile at the communication part, on the left hand side, the first tab is My Bank Accounts. All the bank accounts that are held by you are to be added on this tab, My Bank Accounts. In case you are eligible for a refund, make sure that the account that you have added on the portal is valid and eligible for refund. So how do we get to know? Just on that tab, once you add the bank account, they say that this bank account is valid and eligible for refund. Now, if you, in case there are two bank accounts held by you, one is valid and eligible for refund, and in the second one they say restricted refund due to some reasons. Just below that bank accounts tab is an option, nominate this account for refund. So if your one bank account is validated and eligible for refund, but is not nominated for refund, you will not get the refund in that bank account. And the other bank account which the government is trying to send the refund is having a restricted refund tab or highlighted as restricted refund. So what will happen is your refund will get stuck. So wherever there is restricted refund, don't nominate that account for refund. Wherever your bank accounts are valid and eligible for refund, nominate that account for refund. So there are 2 points. One, valid and eligible for refund. Second, nominate that account for refund as well. Two very important points in case of refunds. Third, and the last point of this slide is the intimation order. What happens is sometimes we file the income tax return but don't receive our refund within the span of 2 to 3 months. In that case, there is an interest that is received on the refund that is receivable by us. So when you go to the view filed returns tabs, over here I'll just show it to you. The first tab after income tax returns, second tab, sorry, view filed returns. In that tab you will get to download your acknowledgement and your return. Just below on the left hand side of that there is a hyperlink which says intimation order dated so and so. What you have to do is you have to download that intimation order and check whether you have received any interest on the refund that has been paid to you. That interest which you have receiving on the refund is also to be offered to tax. Also, it is to be mentioned in the correct space, interest not on savings, not on deposit, but on income tax refunds tab. In case this is not happening, again there could be a demand that will be raised by the department. The other points, e-verification. Your return is valid and submitted before 31st July, but you have not e-verified it within 30 days of filing the returns. Then in that case your return becomes invalid. So that means you have not filed your income tax returns. So in case of people, today is 14th of July, if you have filed your return before 14th of June and you have not e-verified it, make sure that you file it now and get it e-verified before the due date. 30 days is the time limit from the date of filing and not from the due date. So you will say ki 31st July च्या आधी return file झाला ना, आता 31st August नंतर आपण e-verify करू. That is not the case. 30 days are the time limit from the date of filing of returns. Refund reissue, there is a service request available with you in case there is a refund failure due to incorrect selection of bank account or restricted refund wala bank account is selected for your refund. You have an option called the refund reissue. So this can be initiated only and only when you get an intimation order which says that you are eligible for a refund, and then you get a mail from the department that your refund is failed. Then they give you the reasons. Your refund is failed due to incorrect bank account. You can go for a refund reissue request. Once you click on refund reissue under the services tab, which I believe is here, just the fourth tab from left between authorized partners and AIS is the services tab. You can get the option of refund reissue. You click on refund reissue, a small window opens up. On that you have to click create new request or add new request. Add new request, you select the assessment year for which you are eligible for a refund and the department has issued the intimation order. Only then that will pop up over here. And also it takes a time lag of 2 to 3 days, just the time when you receive an email that your refund has failed due to bank account. Don't go to the portal immediately. It takes 2 to 3 days for that particular assessment year to be reflected under refund reissue tab. So once that refund reissue tab, the click option is available for new refund request. Make sure that the assessment year is available on that portal. Select the assessment year, click on next. They give you an option to select the bank account. While selection of bank account, make sure that you select that bank account which is valid and eligible for refund and is nominated for refund. Then only the process will be completed in a smooth manner. The third point here is e-pay tax. Now generally online payments have become an easier step to pay taxes nowadays. What you can do is you can log into your income tax portal. Again, the third option over here is e-pay tax. On the e-pay tax option, you can select your assessment year, your major head, minor head, and pay the income tax from the portal itself. Also, as mentioned earlier, in case you fail to download the challan at the time of payment, you can any which ways go at a later date, go to the e-pay tax and download the challans which you have paid for the assessment year so and so. AISTS password, as I have earlier mentioned, the password to open is PAN in small and date of birth in DDMM YYYY format. AIS JSON. I wanted to bring your attention to this particular fact of AIS JSON. Now, in cases where there are multiple share transactions, the department is unable to give you the Excel details of all the shares that have been sold from the site itself. Like there is a limitation of 10 entries in one slide and there are 10 slides. So 10 10s 100 is the only transaction limit that is available with the government right now. So in case there are more than 100 entries in your SFT, what you can do is you can download the JSON of your AIS. So AIS JSON gets downloaded on your PC, but it is not a PDF to be opened directly. Like PDF, you can double click, enter your password and the PDF gets opened. But for JSON, what you need is a utility. So where do I get this utility? You get this utility just over here under the resources tab. So once you click on proceed from income tax, you go to the AIS tab, you download AISTS under PDF, then you say nahi माझ्याकडे तर JSON पाहिजे, तर you click on JSON. Just when you close that tab, at the back end this screen is available. The first option is resources. Once you click on resources, you select the third tab of utility. After you select utility, select the AIS utility for Windows or Mac depending upon the operating system that is available with you. Download that utility into in a zip format, extract that utility. When you open that utility, select the JSON file that you have downloaded and the entire data gets ready in front of you of the JSON into your utility. A better option available for you is once the data is available in the utility, there is an option I believe to extract it into Excel. So rather than going for the direct method of extracting single Excels, you can go to the utility, more than 100 entries, JSON imported, the data comes up, matching of the data is done, you can export it to Excel. And once that is exported into Excel, you can match it with the details that are provided to you with your broker. Feedback. In case there are certain entries which you feel are not relating to my PAN or the information is not correct, you want to give a feedback to the person who has mentioned this data or provided this data to the government. Once you click on AIS, there are few options available: dividend, SF, shared sales or interest on deposits. On the right hand side, there is a small tab called feedback, which is optional. So in case you are not providing any feedback, that means the data is accepted by you. But if the data is not acceptable to you, you can click on an optional option. The screen pops up wherein the data that has been mentioned comes on the top. You can give the feedbacks in the following manner. The first option is information is correct. If the information is correct, that means you have accepted the data. So there is no need to give a feedback. Compulsory requirement is not there. But in case the information is not correct, following options are available to you. First, income is not taxable. Second, information is correct, but it is not fully correct. Information relates to other PAN or other financial year. Information is duplicate or included in other information. Or you can simply say information is denied. Now what happens when you give this feedback is, it again goes to the person who has given this data to the government and asks him to accept or reject. As of now, for us, the work is done because we have completed our part. Once you deny the information, or suppose say there is a property in the name of wife, a spouse and the other person, the information, the rent has been received by the wife, but the information is received in the husband's PAN or husband's AIS. What the husband can do is select the third option, information relates to other PAN. Then he can put the PAN of the wife. Select the nature of relation, you can say spouse. Once you put the PAN, the name in XXX format comes on the screen. So you can match if there is any error in entering the PAN, and then you can submit the request. The moment you submit this, that information related to another PAN, what I believe is from my AIS it will go, but it will go from my AIS to the other person's AIS, is what I presume. So this should be the manner in which maybe going further utility would be functioning. Discard income tax return. A very, very important point what I felt was this year they have introduced is the discard income tax return option. In case you file your income tax return late in the night, ratri 1 वाजता return file करून टाकला. You get up in the morning, you say, oh, आता मी verify करून file करून टाकणार. Then you recollect, array, there was one particular income which I failed to mention in the income tax return. No problem. You can discard this return which was filed by you and file a new return. There will be no mention of this return anywhere because it is not e-verified, and because it is not e-verified, it is invalid and there is no information of this with the department. So a very important point I felt was discard income tax return, mention the correct data in the new return and file the new return. After you file the new return, again, make sure that you e-verify it within 30 days. So where do I get this discard tab? The discard tab also is available under the e-verify return option. So e-file income tax return, first option. Third option, just about 26 years, view e-verify return. Once you click on e-verify return, it gives you the options whether you want to discard or you want to e-verify. Few points which I felt were new to me, you may be aware, but this was an addition to my knowledge because of this presentation, I would say. First is the challan correction. So in case I have paid the tax for assessment year 24-25, but erroneously I selected the assessment year as 23-24. You can change the assessment year itself. So you have to go to service request, just how I informed you about the refund reissue. Below the refund reissue, there is this option of challan correction. You can change the challan. A very good news for me, for all of us maybe. The second point is change of major head, that is company, non-company heads if there is an error made by you. The third one is the minor head, in case there is a change of assessment, advanced tax to self-assessment tax. So example I would like to mention over here was, suppose I paid 20,000 rupees as self-assessment tax for assessment year 24-25. But after some calculations I found that in my case there is a refund of say 50,000 rupees. So I would say that 50,000 is already refunded. Plus I have paid 20,000, then I will have to show that amount and again claim a refund of 70,000. What I would do is, I would change the assessment year to 25-26. I would change the nature from self-assessment tax to advanced tax and shift it to the next financial year. So in terms of say stock market, stop loss zala. At least the refund that has been receivable has reduced from 70 to 50. And I can use that amount for the future years. Another point is generate EVC. Now after you file the income tax return, you go to e-verify. Generally we go for Aadhaar OTPs. But in case there is some issue with the linking of mobile number, your Aadhaar OTP is not getting generated. So what we do, we take the printout, we sign it like the earlier olden days and we send it to Bangalore. The government has come up with one new point, generate EVC. EVC is the electronic verification code. Now, some time back I mentioned about the valid and eligible for refund bank accounts. In case your bank account is valid, eligible for refund, and your mobile number that has been linked with your bank account is the same which is in your profile, what you can do is, you can generate an EVC by selecting the bank account option. So there are three options available for generating EVC. First is through internet banking, second is through bank account, and third is through Demat account. So the first and the third option I felt were a little bit difficult. Bank account is pretty much simpler. You select the bank account, you click on generate EVC. What will happen is the system will run a background process. It will check the bank account with which your mobile number is linked. It will send an EVC on the mobile number as well as on the email ID which is linked to your bank account. If you get that EVC without Aadhaar OTP, you can e-verify your return. So when you go for e-verify return, the first option is Aadhaar OTP. You ignore that. There is another option. I have an EVC and I want to e-verify using the e-verification code. Click on the e-verification code, your return will be e-verified successfully. And the last part which every one of us is waiting after filing of tax returns is the refund. So you can now check whether the refund has been issued to you or not. In the earlier years, for the earlier years as well, you can select the assessment year and check whether the refund has been issued. If yes, on what date the bank account is credited. So this was all from my point of view. In case there are any questions, we can take it. Yeah, yes sir.
Yeah, then can you just go to that discard one, right?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, is it e-verify discard?
Yeah.
You don't have to give verify that.
No. Once the return is e-verified, this tab will go. Yeah, then in that case it will be a revised return. Yeah.
So that e-verify, yes, that's
Okay.
For NRI,
Yeah.
necessary to file the returns.
It depends, sir.
Suppose nothing is there, no transactions.
If there is no income, there is no tax, sir.
No, is it necessary to file the returns?
I don't think so. My limited knowledge says for non-resident it is, sir, the compulsory requirements I have mentioned. In that there is no mention of NRI as such. But again, I'll take back to that screen. Here it says. Sorry, sir. हाँ correct. That is the safest way. Yeah. See, for NRIs, I'm not the right person to give comments, but it is always better to file tax returns till you come to India. File it for, as he rightly said, for 3 years, and then keep quiet if there is no taxable income or the income is below basic exemption. But an NRI, I don't think so, will be having income below basic exemption limit, right? Yeah, income in India, yeah. So, agreed, but it is better, I would say. Mandatory or not mandatory, I am not the right person, I would say.
Because NRI, I think I heard, there is no Aadhaar card as a base,
Yeah, correct, that is true.
Consider Aadhaar card as your.
Correct, that is true.
How you linking the bank and
There is a difficulty, I would say, but then you will have to find ways. Yes, sir. 10IA is also to be filed online. Online. Once you go to this tab, I'll just show it to you. Once filed, you have to. It can be changed only once. Earlier it was, I believe, 10IE. It was. You can be opting in and opting out. But for the new 10IEA, I don't think there is an option. Here, e-file. That tab, I'll just show it to you. Yeah. Once you select income tax returns is the option. Below that it is income tax forms. In that form you have to select 10IEA. Yeah. Yes. Yes, sir.
Nowadays we do a lot of payments through GPay, correct?
Correct.
And group of friends or something, we make a payment either cash or GPay.
Correct.
And in turn,
They-
there is sharing.
correct.
We get a credit from GPay.
Correct.
Now does the income tax act, income tax check that those credits?
No, I don't think so. As of now, that is not checked because it is basically drawings or reimbursement of expenses that can be considered. But it is a personal of nature. So I don't think that can be treated as income.
Same thing with EUP.
Sorry, sir?
EUP. I got some credit in EUP.
Uh-huh.
So that is included in my statement.
Wrong person to comment, sir.
What is the basic difference between 26 As and AIs? All the information both are contained the same?
No, no. AIS contains the information on which can be treated as income for you, precisely. 26AS contains the data on which TDS was deducted. That is the basic difference that you can say. And advanced tax, asset tax have been now shifted to AIS rather than earlier as it was in 26AS. So if TDS is deducted, then it will come in 26AS. But irrespective of the fact whether TDS is deducted or not, it will come into your AIS.
So, which is the reference for finding the
All three, sir, all three. Three, TIS as well. And then you keep reconciling. Because it doesn't match. It doesn't match. Depends, sir. If you are very sure that it is not your income, then you can deny the information, as I mentioned in the feedback screen. Yes, sir.
I believe you just clarify basically in respect of that option to go for new regime and old regime. In the sense, if you don't have a business income, you have that option every year. Maybe you can
Yeah, I'll just tell it. See, in ITR 1 and 2, a very good point, sir. Sorry, I missed that one. The option to go for old regime and new regime. What the point we want to convey was, you can opt in or opt out of new and old depending upon your benefits in ITR 1 and 2 over here. The option has been given in ITR 1 and 2, right? So you can opt in or opt out just by clicking the selected radio button. However, if you have business income and you go for old tax regime, then you cannot change that. So once you have opted for old, you have to follow the old scheme only in cases of ITR 3 and ITR 4 where there is a business income. Very good point, sir.
Sir, if suppose somebody is
because I think, to be very honest, why I wanted to highlight is that nowadays people are doing FNO, which apparently is a business income.
Yeah.
People will have to be
Very
very careful.
careful. True. Yes, ma'am.
yeah, somebody is having salary income
Yeah.
as well as the business income.
Correct.
And below 50 lakhs.
Correct.
So where will you find this?
If ITR 4 only and only if he is following presumptive income. See, I have mentioned it over here.
Correct. So now he is having the salary as well.
Salary can be taken care of. See, and ITR 4 salary is one of the following sources. Having income from business under 44 AD, ADA, AE, and income from any of the following sources. Because a person who is running business will also have savings bank interest. He may have a house property on which he is paying interest on home loan or whatever. So, these 4 plus business becomes ITR 4. These 4 per se up to 50 lakhs ITR 1. The basic difference. ITR 1 and 4. Yeah. Yes? Yes, only one house property. In case of 2, ITR 2. 2 or more, ITR 2. So if you have one SOP and one LOP, you cannot file ITR 1. Yes.
For the farmer income,
Yeah, agricultural income. Yeah.
what are the benefits and whether I have to show it or?
If there is an income, you will have to show it, sir. It will increase your tax slab. It will not be taxable, but the tax slab, the other income is say this much. The agricultural income will, what it will do, it will push you to the upper slab. That is what the agricultural income does.
There is no benefit as such.
That is upon you, sir. Benefits can be calculated upon your conditions. Also, there is an option to show expenses. Now, earlier there was only agricultural income. What we found out was there is also an option to mention agricultural expenses now. So you can reduce that from your income.
So we have to show some proof.
It is like traffic police, sir. You get caught, you will have to show your PUC, you will have to show your license, you will have to show your insurance. Okay? Yes, sir.
Address correction.
Sorry? Address correction.
If we do it while filing income tax return.
There are two different things, sir. One, you can do it while your income tax filing return, but that is per qua that return itself. For the next year, again, you will have to change it. But if you change it into the profile once and you file your income tax return for online, then you don't have to change it every year.
Even if it is changed in the profile,
Yeah.
the TDS certificate which you are getting is with the old address.
What happens is, I'll tell you, the TDS return is taking the data not from your profile, but from your PAN database. Now, PAN database is the earlier times when you used to submit your PAN application. At that time, you must have submitted some proof of your old address. If you want to change that address as well on your Form 16, the TDS certificates, you will have to make a new application to the NSDL, or you can do it online as well. You will have to say correction in PAN card. You have to mention your correct original PAN card that you are holding, and you have to mention the details that are to be changed. So there are two forms for PAN card. One is new application, one is amendment. So in your case, it will be amendments to PAN card. What will happen after that is you will receive a new PVC card on your new address, and henceforth the TDS certificate will also show the new address. That is the case. So for TDS certificate, suppose I have deducted your TDS and you say कि I now stay at Ville Parle, not at Andheri. I cannot change it. I only mention the PAN number. The other details are fetched from the PAN database. So the only way to change it is you have to make an application to the PAN office or online, and then you can get it changed with the correct proofs. And nowadays I believe without Aadhaar they are not accepting any proof. So the basic document that you would need to change first is the Aadhaar, then go for the PAN correction. Yeah? Done? Yes, sir. Yeah. Correct. We'll need to check the document, sir. It will be taxed, yes. Tax saver fund is the deduction that you get, I believe, right? ATC deduction. In the year of investment. So in the year of investment you did not know. Like long term capital gains. Yeah? So you saved the tax at the time of investment, plus up to 1 lakh you are not paying any tax. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I think possibly just since you have covered it, these are my experiences.
Yes, sir.
26 years, there will be 10 entries. But that auto-populated TDS capture which is happening in the return, sometimes it contains only 6 or 7 entries. So
Correct.
we have to ensure that all TDS from 26 days
Are
manually entered.
correct.
Because otherwise that will be
Sir, people will take care of that, sir, because there will be tax liability in that case.
No, sometimes even if there is a refund,
Yeah.
even of a lower amount, if the entire 26 days is not in the auto-populated.
Possible.
We just want people for that.
Yeah, so you need to check everything before accepting any, and there is also an option to discard now. So in case either TDS मध्ये आलंच, you can discard the return. That way. Chalo, thank you. Yeah.
Let's thank Akshay Tambe. He has covered the subject which is quite intense in a very precise manner and with very specific issues brought out. Thank you so much. Yes.